You've seen it. Radio Caribbean International. 101. Number 1. Tired of the ordinary at lunchtime? Why not try something smart to chew on? The Lunchroom on RCI, Monday to Friday, 12:45 to 2 p.m. The Lunchroom, informative, enlightening, provocative, engaging. The Lunchroom on RCI, food for thought. The station that gives you, more lunch.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Lunchroom on Radio Caribbean International. It's Friday the 13th of February 2026. And of course, we are broadcasting on 101.1 FM radio, as well as our Facebook Live feed. Just hit for the official page of Radio Caribbean International. Please be sure to like and share that as well with your friends and family. Of course, if you want to call in to tell us what's on your plate today, the number to do so is 452-3046. Again, 452-3046. You can also reach us on our WhatsApp number, and that is 284-6001. Again, 284-6001. Look back in time for today, and we go way back to the year 1258. Baghdad, which was then a city of 1 million, fell to the Mughals as the Abbasid Caliphate was destroyed. Tens of thousands of people slaughtered, ending the Islamic Golden Age. In the year 1601, on this day, a fleet of 5 British East India Company vessels departed on their first voyage from London. It was led by James Lancaster, and he was commanding the Red Dragon. The journey lasted nearly 16 months. In the year 1689, the Parliament of England adopted a Bill of Rights, establishing the rights of Parliament and placing limits on the Crown. 1942, on this day, Germany's planned invasion of England, Operation Sea Lion, was cancelled by Adolf Hitler. 1945, more World War II history. Allied planes began bombing the German city of Dresden, resulting in a devastating firestorm that destroyed the city and killed over 22,000 people. 1945, on this day as well, more World War II history. Soviet forces captured Budapest after a 50-day battle with Nazi Germany that killed 159,000 people. And in 1960, France became the 4th nuclear nation by detonating its first device. That was a 70-kiloton atomic bomb. It was called Géboise Bleu. And that happened in the Algerian Saharan desert. We now move on to our dish of the day.
Serving now, the Daily Dish.
And welcome back to the Lunchroom here at Radio Caribbean International. Now, of course, many people are getting back to their normal routine, and that is thanks to the pipes flowing again in the north of the island. Of course, there was a significant disruption of a lot of general activity yesterday as a result of an ongoing rupture or leaks that were found on the raw water line that runs from the John Compton Dam and heads north towards the Thibbles treatment plant. That is effectively, literally, the lifeline for the north of the island. Right? If we say that water is life, that is the single artery that's taking that heart, which is pumping the water that we require to be treated at the Thomas Thibbles treatment plant in Cicero. Now, When you consider that, we've been hearing lots of people have been asking, what, can't there be other ways? Shouldn't there be another way? I mean, in terms of when such a thing happens that you've got to make repairs, that we don't see such a significant impact in terms of the water supply and to people who are requiring it. And it sounds like obviously something that would make sense to some degree, that you have some redundancy, some backup in the system, and that could potentially happen in different ways. One could be that you have an alternative supply line, right? That would in fact be able to provide that water to the treatment plant, right? So that they could still get water. So there's that some level of redundancy in the pipeline, but there isn't. And then some may also say that, well, maybe it's also a challenge of the storage of water. That if, in fact, if there was adequate storage of potable water, in other words, after the water is in fact treated at the treatment plant, that probably there's a smaller reservoir which would be able to at least have the capacity to handle maybe 2 or 3, 4 days supply of the treated water. And that, of course, would be a great thing to have, because, of course, it would mean that you could potentially shut down that line for maintenance, maybe a day or two. You could look at a lot of what you need to do. You could have your scheduled maintenance occur without any kind of significant disruption to the supply. But unfortunately, as I've mentioned, that is not the case. We do not have that kind of built-in redundancy in our system. There is very limited storage of potable water, certainly in the northern system as we have it. The few tanks that exist at Shock, at Rodney Bay, or sorry, Rodney Heights, that hill, as well as Beausejour, can only really handle a fraction of what is consumed in the north of the island for a day. When the Thibbles treatment plant was constructed, and even the design of the pipeline to feed that treatment plant, the real assumption was that by, I think, the year 2006, we would have gotten to, so was it 2006 or 2016? I think by the year 2016, we would have gotten to what is the demand, the design capacity of that system, which is 10 million gallons per day, right? So if everything was working perfectly fine, that system should be able to deliver at full capacity 10 million gallons of water per day. We have surpassed that design year, right? That which is, I think, about 10 years ago. And additionally, we are also running a system that has aged to the point where it no longer meets those design capacity limits, right? So it is not, in one instance, in terms of the supply of the water, the line that's supplying the water, invariably because of leaks on the line, because of points which have had corrosion, and you're finding that there are points where you've got breakages, leaks. It's not meeting that anywhere near that level of efficiency. And so, of course, that is one point of loss in terms of reducing on the overall output. And then you have issues with the treatment plant itself, which, of course, also is aged and is at a point where it is the number of filters that are actually operating properly down to about 40%. So you really have, and these filters are doing even more than what they're designed to really do. So they're being overworked in almost. And so that is really the challenge that you find we find ourselves in, particularly if we are living in the north of the island and are depending on that system. It is certainly has not been, it's over its design life, and it requires a significant amount of investment. Now, that has nothing, all that I'm saying here right now has almost nothing to do with the other aspect, which we were, of course, hearing quite a bit on, which is the matter of the John Compton Dam desilting. Now, that is one aspect. You have the dam, which, of course, is a matter of really how effectively we can, in fact, have a security in terms of our water, in terms of long periods of drought. If that, of course, you've got high levels of siltation, you then have challenges in terms of how much water is actually able to be contained and to be utilized. And so that's another problem, which is, of course, has only partially been addressed because, of course, we've heard the challenges of that in terms of that project, which in and of itself clearly had it did not deliver on what it was fully supposed to do, which was really to remove a certain amount of material out of the dam, and really only some of it has been, a smaller fraction of what was supposed to have been removed has in fact been removed. It has helped somewhat because some of the outtakes have, well, one of the outtakes, which was, I think it has 3 outtakes, and one of them is now, the middle one is now actually able to be used for taking out water. It's above the silt line now. But it certainly has not solved that problem. And so here we have another issue. So they have a storage issue in terms of raw water storage. We have a system that is has a lot of leaks on the raw water side. You also have a system that is having leaks on the potable water side as well. And of course, a system that does not have the kind of redundancies that you would want to see to be able to handle situations where you may need to shut down the system. So it's not a good situation at all that we find ourselves in as a country, really, in terms of our water security. And it certainly is a matter that speaks more to the fact that we have not seriously addressed the issue of our water security. It is very easy, I suppose, in some regards, when it comes to the electricity sector. We run diesel. We're largely dependent on the importation of fuel, and sometimes we'll see the spikes in the price of fuel. Thankfully, as of now, we're not in that zone, and so the pressures in terms of spikes of prices, we're not quite in that period of time. But of course, we're still it's still a risky time in that regard, and our reliance on fossil fuels and how those fossil fuels, of course, are so very impacted by geopolitics and supply and demand at a global level, which can in fact impact us. But in the case of water, it's a resource that we have right here on our island, and it's a resource that we have to manage, and it's a resource that effectively, if we don't have it, there's very little idea that we may be importing water or that sort of thing, right? It's a resource that we've got to manage, and the management of the resource is perhaps one of the things we have not adequately done and taken seriously enough. And that is, of course, actually the responsibility of the state through an agency called the Water Resources Management Authority. They're the ones who are really supposed to, in the first instance, ensure that the resource, which is largely in this time, the water resource, which is largely coming out of surface water, right, as a result of rainfall, that we are in fact protecting that resource and where it is coming from. We've seen the challenges of that over time, and a lot of it, of course, has to deal with land use planning. We've seen in some instances where we've had catchments. Those catchments have been taken out of use for different reasons. Might be agriculture, might be housing, and of course we've also seen the pressures of um, climate change, how that is of course also impacting on that resource that we have. So it's a resource that's under pressure. It's a resource that's getting scarcer, but it is certainly something that we have to be able to see how we can best utilize and protect, because we are all dependent on it for pretty much every single activity that we are engaging in right now. It impacts every single sector. It impacts our domestic use, whether people are engaging in sanitation, in cooking, in laundry, laundering, if you like. You name it. It's landscaping purposes at your home. Just think about the fact that, for example, that we have so many more vehicles on the road. So many more vehicles end up having to be washed on a weekly basis. That's all impacting on the use of water. We of course have seen a tremendous increase in tourism, which is also placing a significant impact on water. And whereas maybe the average household in the case of a St. Lucian household, you might, in terms of the people who plan for the water forecast and the demand on the system, you might think, well, you say 120 gallons per person per day, right? When you look at the use within the tourism sector in terms of hotels, you're probably talking about at least double that. So you can then see where the implications are in terms of the use that is coming, because a lot of people, of course, they're coming to have a good time. They want to be in the pool. That's water. They want to be using the spa. A lot more water use. In a lot of these places, there's a lot of water use that you're talking about in the kitchens and everything that you want to, in the tourism sector, that you want to see. So it is not a easy situation that we are in. It also means that, of course, we as a country need to be taking some steps at a policy level, at a national level, to see how we can begin addressing this situation. Yes, there are going to be some of the large-scale investments that are needed. And even right now, of course, you've heard that financing has been acquired through the Caribbean Development Bank for tackling the replacement of the raw water pipeline from Millet to up to the Tibbles treatment plant. The intention there, not just to replace it with a 24-inch pipeline, but in fact to go with a 32-inch pipeline, so as to ensure that you can actually get, in the long term, a greater flow rate to feed, the north. So that's the plan. It's a big project, and it's going to take some time to actually be built, so that this whole line can be completely replaced. Likewise, we've also heard of funding available to tackle through the CARICOM Development Fund to tackle the upgrade of the Tibbles treatment plant. And of course, again, very much necessary, but it's going to take some time. And so the question is, and this is just, of course, just to get us back to a point where things can be working as they should in terms of that quote unquote 10 million gallons per day. But remember, I said chances are we've already surpassed that demand, and will continue to see increased demand. So you then end up in a situation where, yes, you can now have the system working much better, but then you certainly still do need to look at how we can have a more resilient system. So the idea, of course, of ensuring that we have storage of potable water in some of these instances, that's something that has to be programmed by the utility in the medium term. And of course, this whole conversation that we've been having has largely been looking at the north of the island, which of course is where you've got the greatest pressure and the most centralized water system that exists. However, the south of the island has its own challenges, and their major challenge, of course, is dealing with long periods of not having water in drought periods, drought conditions, and so this is a major risk that we face as well in the south of the island. Many of these systems are very much legacy systems that have been around for a very long time and don't really have very much storage at all. And so the proposal of constructing a dam to serve the south of the island has been around for some time, has been studied under feasibility studies. And again, that's a significant investment. That would have to be for the funds to be found to be able to put such a facility in. But if we are going, of course, going to be speaking about industrialization, we're speaking about increased hotel accommodation. All of these things is going to require more water, and so certainly that's also a very important aspect. But of course, we also have to deal with the other aspects of it and what can be done at the level of the household or the level of the property owner, whether it's a business or a hotel or residence. And at that level, of course, the need for one, water conservation is vital. And we see way too many times that, you've got a lot of points where, you've got leaks, or you've got taps that have been left running, or they may have been left open when there was no water, and it's now water is returned, and of course, it's just gushing, unabated. And that, of course, is very, very wasteful. So we have to see how we can, of course, conserve the resource that is available. It's very, very important. If everybody could, in fact, just simply use less, it would mean that it would be able to stretch a lot more. So that's a really important aspect in the conversation. Part of it, of course, may have to do with standards and technology, the types of systems that we have. Do we have toilets that have low flush rates, and do we have other types of devices to prevent water from just running unabated? So some of the things that certainly can be done to conserve water, and we certainly do need to look at that. The other issue, of course, is storage. And unfortunately, there still is way too much construction without any storage being provided for these homes, for these businesses. And we've been speaking about it for a long time, but I don't think we can continue with this sort of situation. It has to simply be mandated, has to be mandatory that there, in fact, is in place. And the other aspect, of course, the matter of rainwater harvesting, which is something we've heard the Prime Minister speak a lot about and wanting to put an emphasis on, is also very, very important, because we do have lots of rainfall island wide, and it certainly is largely just going to waste, and could potentially be better utilized. In countries that are water scarce, they are, doing all manner of things to ensure that their water, that they're maximizing every single drop that they can utilize. Singapore, of course, is an extreme example of just that, in that even wastewater, gray water, water that is coming out of toilets is in fact being reutilized. Right. So of course, Singapore about our size, but a population of over 5 million, and they're in a situation where they are dependent on a lot of water coming out of Malaysia, and so they want to be a lot more secure in terms of their water situation, and so their efforts as well of water reclamation, dealing with water even from the estuaries and treating it so that in fact it can be reutilized, is something that they're doing. We may not even have to go that far in our case, but certainly the matter of rainwater harvesting is something that has tremendous potential and value, and especially when we're dealing with larger properties, why should we not be going in that direction? I mean, if we're talking about asking hotels to do desalination, that sounds like a nice plan, but as well, there's lots of fresh water that's also falling on those properties as well that should potentially be captured and could be also equally treated for other uses. So it certainly is going to require an integrated approach towards water management and looking at the water sector moving forward. And of course, how it all balances out. A lot of people, quite often say that we aren't paying enough for water. When you really think about it, paying what is it, 1 cent per gallon, I think it works out to be, for every 1 gallon we utilize, we're really just paying 1 cent, and that's a pretty low rate, even by Caribbean standards. And so it's not really, considering the amount of money that we're spending on alcohol, the amount of money that we're spending on entertainment, the amount of money we spend on other utilities. I think it's necessary, if we know that to have a reliable source, a reliable supply of water, that we should be willing to pay a bit more. Now, of course, it may not all come from water rates, and let's hope, in fact, that we can see an attempt, of course, to deal with the matter of climate change, and perhaps I know efforts are at play to try to get a lot of that climate financing to put towards the water sector, because, of course, the climate change issues are impacting on water scarcity. So yes, that's also necessary, but we have to also play our part and put our resources, our money where our mouths are in this regard. At some point, we've got to bite the bullet when it comes to the matter of water, and it has been one of these cans that has been consistently kicked down the road and left for somebody else to deal with it. And I think hopefully we should be seeing that, look, this is not something that we can run away from. All societies that have civilizations that have been able to thrive have thrived because they've been able to master and control their water resource. And I don't think that aspect is going away anytime soon. That's our dish of the day. And when we come back, we'll take in our weather report.
This has been The Daily Dish.
Island style. Yeah. We got the time to make you go. We got the time to make you say, yeah. We'll have to make the right choice. make you happy. Island style. Oh yeah, we make your dream come alive in island style.
We have tiles and king sets, pieces and ground. Everything you need is on the outside. For the best price and the latest style. Take a little drive down to Island Style car.
We got the time to make you go. We got the time to make you say, quality rice, service choice. It's all an island style.
Visit us at our showrooms in Belarus and Rockland Bay on the John Compton Highway, Cass Street, and behind Ruby's Gas Station on the Library Viewfort Highway. So call us on 450-452 or 453-TILE. Island Style, Tile and Bath. When you think tile, think Island Style.
This is Radio Caribbean International. It's now time for the weather news.
And that's of course on the 1 point board. It's now time for your weather report as of 12 noon today, presented by Island Style Tile and Bath. The forecast for St. Lucia Valley for the next 24 hours. Winds will be blowing from the east near 17 miles per hour or 28 kilometers per hour. The weather fair to partly cloudy skies. And there is an advisory in areas which small craft operators and sea beavers are advised to exercise caution due to above normal seas. And the forecast for the Lesser Antilles is fair to partly cloudy skies with a few brief showers. And the weather summary: light to moderate easterly winds will continue across the eastern Caribbean region for the next few days. Also, a relatively dry and stable atmosphere can be expected over the region for the next 24 hours. And this has been the weather forecast as of 12 noon today, presented by Island Style Tile and Bath.
This has been RCI's Weather News. For more information, call the Weather Hotline at 454-3452. RCI 101 number 1.
Island style, yeah. We got the time to make you go. We got the time to make you say, we'll have to make the right choice. Island style. Whoa. We got the time that will make you happy. Island style. Oh yeah. We make your dream come alive in island style.
We have tiles and king sets, pieces and ground. Everything you need is on the outside. For the best price and the latest style. Take a little drive down to Island Style car.
We got the time to make you go. We got the time to make you say, quality rice, service choice. It's all an island style.
Visit us at our showrooms in Belarus and Rockland Bay on the John Compton Highway, Cass Street, and behind Ruby's Gas Station on the Library Viewfort Highway. So call us on 450-452 or 453-TILE. Island Style, Tile and Bath. When you think tile, think Island Style.
And welcome back to the lunchroom here at Radio Caribbean International. Of course, the number to call in to tell us what's on your plate today, it is 452-3046. Again, 452-3046. And we also have our WhatsApp number, that is 284-6001. Again, 284-6001. Of course, ongoing right now, there are consultations organized by the National Utilities Regulatory Commission, and that's happening in various locations around the island. I think thus far there have been sessions held at Grosley. There was one as well this week. Wednesday was in the VBCC in Leclerc. There was another session held last night in Dennery, and I believe another to be held this evening at about 5 o'clock down in Canaries. And of course, the matter being discussed is a triennial tariff review. Now, this is per the legislation that governs the whole water sector as well as the electricity sector. As of now, of course, the Electricity Supply Act has not yet been amended. So really, WASCO is the entity that is being reviewed. And of course, they have not received a rate increase since 2013. These triennial reviews are meant to look at the the company, look at its finances, look at how well it is being operated. Also looking, of course, at its development plan and what kind of capital improvements it wishes to undertake, and how it is, of course, going to be funded. As of now, the Water and Sewage Company is a government-owned entity. It's fully owned by the government, but of course, it is under a regulator. It has to go through a regulator to which is supposed to independently look at the submission of the utility and determine whether a rate increase is required and the extent of that rate increase and how it is in fact going to be applied. And so that is the conversation being held right now in these various meetings around the island, giving the public an opportunity to comment on how they see things in terms of the water sector and moving forward. And so we do hope, of course, that people are taking up those opportunities, and so that, one cannot say that they were not aware of what is being proposed, and they can actually give comment to these various to the proposal as it is. So, of course, the issue is: are we paying enough for water? Should we pay more? Should we wait first? And this is always an argument. What comes first? People say that they have not seen an improvement in the service, and so therefore they should not pay anything more. And if more is needed, then what happens? What comes first? And so this is really the difficulty, of course, in these sort of situations, especially given that they are time bound and they're looking at a particular 3-year period, and usually that's the case. And sometimes it takes longer than the 3-year period for the results to be actually effected. So certainly it is a very critical issue in terms of the water sector. One can say that perhaps after healthcare, this is certainly one that is a front and center on the minds of a lot of St. Lucians, including St. Lucian businesses, that they certainly want to know that they've got a reliable supply and, of course, an affordable supply as well. So a lot of these matters would, of course, be looked at within this current triennial tariff review. That is the situation in respect of the water sector and the ongoing conversations that are being had with it. Of course, a lot of it has to do with what direction should we go towards. Many are asking, should we be going towards pursuing desalination? Others are, of course, asking about the state of the John Compton Dam. Others may be asking about the matter of sewage, which is not something that we quite often speak of, but certainly is a major issue that we are facing as well in terms of water quality and the cleanliness, the safety of these nearshore areas where we like to bathe. We have a tourism sector that is very much tied to the sea, very much even in terms of where we place our hotels, of course, we are a very coastal society. Our towns and villages are largely on the seaside, and of course, people want to be able to interact with the sea, and we do, whether it's for fishing, whether it's for recreation. We get into the water, and the cleanliness of that water is in fact a major factor. And so we are seeing very often sometimes as well, and it's not even just a matter of the seaside, but also even on the land, areas where you may end up experiencing stenches and bad odors, and a lot of those things, of course, are being tied to bad wastewater disposal and the absence of treatment in other areas. So it is a significant aspect of urbanization if we're especially going to be seeing more dense development. The matter of dealing with sewage or wastewater is very important. One of the issues coming out of that too is should it not be mandatory for individuals who are in an area serviced by a sewer or sewage system to in fact not connect to that sewage system? And we have seen, like for example, in the north of the island, a significant investment of a sewage treatment plant as well as sewer lines to serve the Grosley Rodney Bay area, but still though many people not connected to that system. And there are implications, of course, in regards to that, and perhaps it is something that we have to be thinking about in moving forward. Of course, the issue of cash trees, another area where we have issues of raw sewage being placed, or the outfall being right into the Castries harbor, and that continues to be a major concern. And so here we are looking, of course, at trying to attract more cruise passengers and bringing in more activity, more leisure boats into the Castries harbor, but that is still an outstanding matter. The issue of a wastewater treatment facility for Castries, and of course also expanding the reach of the sewage system for Castries, so as to ensure that more persons, more residences, as well as businesses are going to be connected. That is has been subject to feasibility studies over the years, and of course the matter of how to finance it has been part of that challenge. Can it be financed via again green climate funds and what have you? No doubt attempts being made right now to be able to do so, but part of the challenge, of course, as well, has been finding a suitable location for a treatment plant in the Castries Basin. Of course, it is not any easier in many of our small villages and towns around the island. And if you think the situation is bad for Castries and Grosley, well, it's perhaps even worse when you look at many other of these villages and towns. And that is because there is an absence of sewer systems in pretty much all of them. And so here we have a tremendous challenge there, because if we're speaking about community tourism, we're speaking about village tourism, we're speaking about bringing these communities more into to become more critical in terms of the economy, those issues are going to come up, right? And you want to ensure that the beaches there are attractive enough and are enjoyable enough, and that the town is a salubrious area that is not overburdened by horrid odors. So it's really important, of course, in looking at some of the municipal challenges that exist in many of these urban centers. And of course, the technology may very well be able to help us. We've got lots of possibilities now in terms of packaged sewage treatment, but of course at a price. And so as to how that is going to all be financed, it's something that has to be thought through if we are looking at holistic development for our island. So of course, if you want to comment and tell us about whether you think Wasco should or should not get an increase? What should be that amount? What's a reasonable ask at this point? And what are the areas that you'd like to see, of course, a focus on? Please be free to do just that. The number, of course, 4523046. Good afternoon. Welcome to the lunchroom. And what's on your plate today?
Hi, good day. First of all, as an avid listener to news and everything, so I don't think we, even from a governmental point of view, other industries have strategic long-term goals. Like you'd hear, when it comes to roads, what's the 20-year plan?
Mm-hmm.
Water and these things, you don't hear nothing, no such pronouncement. At least you'll have a little pay for, or you'll say, well, look, I think 90% of the way, and we're expecting X, Y, Z. Because I remember the government of St. Lucia said that 2024 would have been year of the road. So you expected that the fallen highway would have been done. Calix,
infrastructure, I think it was called.
Yeah. I want to ask you, what was done at the dam? Because I think I heard in the previous administration, contracts were given to start the desilting of the dam.
Right.
Money were allocated, monies were paid, and the job, I didn't hear nothing from that. So that's one of the biggest things right now.
Mm-hmm.
The aging infrastructure of, this water pipelines. That's number one. And what is done to desilting that dam? Because they keep on asking you to conserve water and everything too. And the capacity of the dam is, the dam is operating about between 40 and 60%, heavily silted. So before anything you can speak about raising money for raising rates or whatever, Wasco is not coming and tell us, well, what's been done with the money we've been paying them for the last 20 years or so.
So well, that money has largely been paid, been used, caller? Because remember remember there was an increase, I think it was a dredging fee, whatnot, and that was going towards repayment of a loan which was taken out from the CDB, right, for this John Compton dam desilting project. I think upwards of 60 million or thereabouts was spent on that project, and it was I wouldn't say partially. It delivered a small victory in some respects. An important one, I suppose, in that from what they were saying, there are three outlets, right, of the dam, right? 3 points where they can actually take water out, right, at different elevations.
Yeah.
And prior to the desilting process, only one was available, the top one, right? Yeah. Now they have access to the one that's lower down, so they can now. Yeah. That helps a little bit in terms of the pressure as well as the amount of water that they can abstract. But that said, in terms of the process of the amount of silt that was supposed to have been removed, I think they were only able to remove about 8% of the total amount of silt available. That's my understanding.
How many percent? Sorry, how many percent?
8%.
Oh my gosh! And how about the amount of monies that was allocated for the complete job?
For the job, like I said, I think it was about $60 million that had been spent. A large portion of that went towards a section, a facility to sort of just take once the material was taken out of the dam. So you had a sediment disposal area, which was constructed downstream of the dam. And that took up a significant amount of the resources that was spent. So now the argument that is made, well, you're going to have this is a long-term undertaking in terms of the process of desilting. It's something that you're going to have to be doing almost on a continuous basis over time, right? But you see, the challenge is right now not even so much about the capacity of the dam, right? Because, okay, let's just say, I think what that dam was designed to have a capacity of about 750 million gallons, right?
Yeah.
Let's say yes, as you said, you're not even getting half of that. Let's say it's down to maybe about 300 million gallons you now have access to, right?
Yeah.
That's still a 30-day supply. That's still a 1-month supply. But then it's almost meaningless if you're not if you can't get the water out, right?
Yeah.
So if you're not being able to, you have a pipeline that ideally should be providing you with 10 million gallons per day, and that pipeline because of all the leaks that you're finding on it, is only delivering 5 million gallons per day. You're losing the rest, right? Then that's not that's a
are there
lose.
any short terms to rectify that by laying or relaying new transmission lines?
Well, the short term is literally just ensuring that they can manage the leaks that are as they come up. That's really what has been going on. They've also, I guess, if you want to call it short term, maybe the next 2 years as well, they will be starting on the replacement of that pipeline. So they've gotten the funding from the Caribbean Development Bank.
Yeah.
Again, it's a significant amount of, it's what I think close to $70 million or $80 million that has to be spent to put down a new pipeline, which is going to be much larger than the last one. So the current one is 24-inch. This is a 32.
Over
okay,
the
sure.
Yeah.
Well, we mentioned this already, but right. So the new pipeline is a larger pipeline, so that it at least will be able to handle future growth. But the reality is that it's not going to be completed probably for another 2 years. So optimistically, so that of course is where within the interim, many people are asking, well, what can be done? And truth be told, what can be done is that perhaps we hopefully will see more people actually ensuring that they have water storage. It's a major factor, and ensuring that you can actually have sufficient supply that might last you, I would say, at least a week. But given some of the situation, you need to know where you live too. So if you know that you're living at a high elevation, and you're going to be really challenged at this point in terms of getting water, reliable source of water. So it means you need to have enough of storage, 1, and 2, of course, ensure that you can serving, and 3, as some people do, also consider rainwater harvesting for some of your uses. Some houses, of course, have separate plumbing for their gray water, their toilets, and that might be an option that you may have to consider too. If it's new construction, depending on where you're living, that's also an option that is available. So these are things that, of course, we have to consider, and it all depends, of course, on where you live. But regardless of wherever you are in the north, it's a good idea to ensure that you have some level or adequate level of water storage. It is, I think, at this point, not a luxury, but a necessity. And that, I think, is perhaps, if people are looking at short-term measures, it's a pretty good investment to make at this point in time. And of course, in any case, we live in a very climate turbulent area where we've got hurricanes and we've got disturbances that come, and so it's a good idea. It's just a very good practice to ensure that you have water storage. And lots of people, of course, will tell you that, look, this might be the first time in their history they've had to call a water truck. They've had to do these certain things. And yes, and it certainly is a difficult situation. But just think about it, especially when you're looking at a system that you have a demand of 10 million, and maybe at best you're getting 7 million being delivered per day. it means then that and especially if you're at a high elevation, the people who are at the lower elevations are literally taking the water before they can get to you. So that's part of the challenge that we are also facing if you're living at a very high elevation. At a high elevation, not very high. You don't even have to be very high, but at any elevation, any hillside, it is certainly going to be very challenging. So that's the sad reality of it at this time. But it means then that we, of course, have to take the necessary efforts at it. Of course, a lot of it, to some degree, and some people argue, comes back to the issue of land use planning and where we're allowed to build. And lots of people think, well, I want to go, it's where I can get the land, or I want a nice view. And but it comes at a price. It definitely comes at a price. And that's one of the considerations within this pricing. Well, that's our program for today. And of course, we'll be back again next week for another one of the Lunchroom on Radio Caribbean International. We do hope that everybody has a very blessed and safe weekend, and we'll be hopefully back again.